You're probably watching this because you love both the very strange and peculiar and creepy, as well as the relatively wholesome and clear-minded as well. Hopefully, at least, maybe that's kind of like my intention at the moment. This is, of course, the great and glorious, amazing Nick back again to talk to you for no particular reason apart from the fact that I have a camera and it's pointing at my face. But occasionally I like to kind of blog about some of my interests at the time, some of which could be useful to you, some of which not. And this is, right now, me talking about one of my little curiosities that's kind of come my way and has got my mental juices flowing in a way in which is like bordering on obsession, to the point of like, great, this could be something really, really cool to learn about. So this video might interest you or it might not. But the thing is, you won't know until you've watched it. So this is why you're here. And I've ordered myself this thing. And this thing happens to be in this box. And in this box is one of these. Okay? Now, what's interesting about this mushroom growing kit is because the box itself contains a little access code so that you can order as part of the cost of buying the kit. The mycelium, a chunk of stuff which has got the fungus already growing in it. But the box itself, as well as instructions on how to create, how to grow the actual mushroom, only contains a bag of stuff to grow the mushroom on. That's it. Just a bag sealed up with tape and some stuff to grow mushrooms on. And in case you wanted to grow it actually inside the cardboard box it came in, another plastic bag which you can use to keep the box and the area dry and clean. Which is interesting, because I thought I would try this, just to see whether I can do it and what the process actually feels like prior to doing it in a more interesting and informed way in the future. I mean, one of my curiosities is to grow my own, healthy food. Healthy as in, not farmed by anyone else, and I know what's gone into it and that sort of stuff. And yeah, in the garden, I've planted some things. And some of them are actually growing. And some of them I'm not too sure about, to be honest, because I haven't planned it out very well this time round. I mean, with the education I'm giving myself this year, I'll then do it better next year, if you know what I mean, that sort of thing. However, mushrooms seem like they can be things which might be growable all year round. Now, this is a mushroom kit, so therefore it costs a little bit more. But with the help of online education and looking around on various different supplier websites, I've made a discovery. You can actually buy spores of all the different edible mushrooms in a syringe, okay, which you can then grow into something which then acts as being the main bulk of the mycelium prior to putting it into another container and then steadily fruiting it to get the mushroom itself. Yes, some of the websites have some dodgy shit on it too, but they've also got all the different edible mushrooms. So that's actually quite interesting, because if a mushroom growing kit only has the substrate to grow the mushroom and a bag containing the stuff to grow the mushroom itself, if you can find a way of getting your hands on, let's say, the substrate material itself cheaper and more efficiently, and you could in a more cheap and efficient way get your hands on the mushroom spores and a way to grow it, then you could make your own mushroom a lot quicker, well, not quicker, but cheaper at home. If you go onto YouTube, which is where you are right now, so you've got no excuse, you can search for how to cultivate mushrooms using packets of, they usually give the example of Uncle Ben's microwave rice. But there's also supermarket packets of microwavable rice. And these things are chosen because the packet itself is already sterile and already contains rice, and the rice can be used to start the mushroom off. So you would inject it and make one or two small air holes so there can be some airflow, and you leave it for like I think it's a week or two, or maybe 4, I don't know. It might even depend upon the mushroom itself. And then after that, you then take it out and put it into another container which you sterilized with isopropyl alcohol, containing your substrate, like wood chips or no, not wood shavings, or a bit of grain or something that the mushroom can then start eating up and living on and becoming a thing to grow on. There's even people who use like coconut fibers and coconut matting sort of thing. I think it depends upon getting the right type of coconut fibers or the right type of substrate for each different type of mushroom you're trying to grow. Because pet shops will provide sawdust. Okay, you may even know the DIY shop that's got sawdust going on in the background. Because the instructions here say you've got to pasteurize it by pouring 3 liters of boiling water onto the actual substrate, the wood shavings or whatever it is, and then leave it for 8 hours. Then in the morning you drain it all off thoroughly prior to adding this other gunk. Okay, so you've killed off all the other contaminants, and then in the bag itself, once it's all drained of water, you can then you put the other gunk in it and mushed it all up. Put a couple of little slits for the mushrooms to grow out of, and then you just mist it with a bit of water. So it seems like the process could in fact be relatively easy. Then maybe making your own, like mycelium block, using supermarket microwave rice. Those things come in packs like 50 pence. Okay, could possibly be a way forward. I don't know. I'm just going to play with this and see what happens, and see what the experience of actually making this stuff is like. I don't know if I'm just going to get freaked out by having a bag with things growing out of it. Blech. I mean, that would be a very strange experience. Anyway, and then of course, where am I going to do it? I think I've decided that the area on top of the refrigerator is probably the best because it's like relatively warm, and it's out the way of everywhere. And I suppose because of like heat coming out the back of a refrigerator, that might add a bit of extra warmth to the environment. And then hey presto, fresh fungus which I can then like chop up and fry and add to rice or something like that, which might actually do me some good, possibly. There's all kinds of different mushrooms out there. I downloaded this Kindle book which talks about mushrooms and the different types and all that, and it looks like it's going to be a very big subject which I won't be able to properly get my head around, but it seems like it's going to be fun. Now I don't know about the economics of this, because that's like the next big question. What are the economics of growing your own mushrooms to eat? Because like you can go to a supermarket and buy 300 grams for £1 or less. Okay, so therefore it doesn't really make any sense to spend like £23 in the case of this kit if it's not going to provide you with 23 times or more 300 grams. But if you could cut down the cost by more than 50%, okay, more than 50%, so then you only need to make 10 times 300 grams, 3 kilograms, in order for it to be breaking even. Okay, you also got to think about the cost of the buying isopropyl alcohol and spray bottles and that sort of thing in order to make it much more effective. But even then, even if the cost was either breaking even or slightly more, the mushroom you'd still be getting would be properly fresh and wouldn't have been stored and left on a shelf somewhere underneath artificial lights for ages. You can just like tear it straight off the bag, chop it up, fry it, and then that's probably the freshest you can get. Apparently mushroom growing was like one of the biggest hobbies that people had developed during lockdown. So this is me, we're coming to the end of what could be the last lockdown for all I can tell. And I'm coming into the party quite late, as I tend to with nearly everything. But, cool or what? This particular kit that I got my hands on was for golden oyster, which is supposed to be a relatively easy to grow thing. So I thought I'd start myself out on that. prior to looking at other things like lion's mane. If you've seen pictures of lion's mane mushroom, they're these long, straight balls with these straggly, fluffy bits on it, really, which looks like really exotic. It would be really rather strange having that growing above my fridge, but either way, that's another thing to look into. Apparently one of these kits can provide what they call 3 or 5 flushes or harvests. So once they've grown, you break them off and then you cook them and eat them, and you leave the bag up there spraying it with water, and then you get another growth of mushroom, and you can then use that, and so on and so forth. And when it's finished, you just like shove it onto a compost heap somewhere, and it might still give you even more mushrooms. So it's all rather interesting, really. Now, is that a way of providing you with ultra cheap food? It depends upon how much you make, really. And there will be some variability because of temperature, humidity, time of year, quantity of sunlight, and of course where you put it, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily something you can do if you're just trying to live really, really cheaply. But it could still provide you with something which is fresh. I mean, I don't know if there's like a certain break-even point when you can get like the right quantity for the right price, maybe cutting the cost down even further, and then just like getting yourself plenty of cheap stroke-free food. And I think it depends on how much the spores themselves cost. Because if you're thinking about the Uncle Ben's rice microwave pack means of making the first culture, so to speak, prior to putting it into the substrate, you're supposed to use 1 milliliter for each bag of Uncle Ben's rice, and the syringes are usually about 10 milliliters, which means rather a lot of spore. So you'd have to have like lots of it going. I mean, maybe you could like grow lots of it all in one season, and then chop them up, clean them, and freeze them. And maybe that would be a good way of doing it. But you can have like frozen mushrooms to have at later stages on in the year. Or possibly use a canner, and you could can them. And other people tend to dehydrate them, especially using lion's mane medicinally. People would dehydrate it and then put it through a pill making machine or a capsule making machine to turn the lion's mane fungus into a medicinal supplement for body and brain health, apparently. Okay, this is just like things I've seen and heard, have not put to the test as of yet. We'll just have to see how it goes. But this is like a curiosity. Okay? And I'm sure there must be like cheaper ways of getting mushroom growing bags. I'm sure there must be cheaper ways of getting substrate. I'm sure there must be cheaper ways of getting spores, or like a starting culture, or maybe once you've got it going and you manage to collect some spores and put them on agar plates, you could store those in the fridge until you want to grow mushroom properly and keep the mycelium alive somehow without it presumably taking over the whole fridge in a kind of like I'm a mushroom and I'm taking over your life kind of thing, which is always a fear, really, a possibility. Am I going to like do this for a hobby one day and then like 10 years later sort of out of the woodwork, yeah, I'm a fucking mushroom, yeah. Is that going to happen to me? I hope not. Is the whole house going to like rot and be taken over by fungi everywhere? That would be bad. That would be bad. It's just like really, really weird and wonderful that this has become such a thing, and it's so out there. I mean, it says on this packet, extremely fast growth, harvest in as little as 21 days. Okay, the instructions say it might take a bit longer to get like, proper well-grown things, but think about that, 21 days. Think about like how often you could then grow a kit, or you could make a kit and then get like a regular fungus throughout the year for the table. That's pretty much any time of the year. Okay? It's curious. 21 days. That's like 3 weeks. 3 weeks from receiving the stuff, because like, you know, as I said, there was a QR code thing, and you have to go into the website and type it in and that kind of stuff, and then they'll send to you the stuff which needs to be put into the kit, you know, the actual mycelium block thing, and then from then onwards, 21 days. I mean, even like if you're growing sprouts, you know, from green lentils, that can still take a period of time. You know, I think it's still like a couple of weeks to get yourself a good crop of brown lentil sprouts. So to get a whole mushroom, I mean, 21 days, 21 days. What if you to do like the beefsteak mushroom, and they're like big and they're fat and massive. That could be an interesting one, because it's like a steak, it's like a beefsteak. You know, it's this big flat thing which grows out the side of the thing, and it's like big, and you could like tear that off and shove that straight into the frying pan and have that with some fries and some peas, and like, nice. Okay, just where my head is at the moment, which is what most of my videos are about. See you in a bit.